All year round, Frontier Home Products and Design has what you need to make your home comfortable and beautiful. Relax on a new timber tech deck designed by Frontier's experts. A new fireplace from Frontier Home Products Fireplace Gallery adds warmth and serenity to any home. Beauty and versatility at Frontier Home Products and Design Center, 4213 Peachtree, East 5th, next to the Bayfront Highway.
Frontier Home Products and Design Center. Discover a new frontier.
PA contractor number PA039007.
From baggage claim to pajamas in 10 minutes. Erie International Airport. Fly with ERI.com.
Fly Erie International Airport to Charlotte on American Airlines, your nonstop gateway to the world. Also, we have Breeze Airways flying nonstop to Orlando and Tampa, Florida. A great low-cost carrier providing excellent service to the regional community. Fly Erie International for your travel needs.
Fly with ERI.com.
Welcome to TalkErie.com's Joel Natale Show, Erie, Pennsylvania's daily podcast. Every day, we tackle the biggest issues that the Erie, PA region faces. Stay informed and involved as we advance the narrative of Erie. Now, here's Joel Natale.
Right here at this place, we have the crucial conversations that Erie needs, and one of the top three topics that we'll talk about over the course of days and weeks is housing. And we're very excited to have this conversation with Kim Thomas, the Executive Director of Infinite Erie, about her brand new project here for housing. It's called the Erie Housing Accelerator Plan. Welcome, Kim.
Thanks so much, Joel. Glad to be here with you.
All right, Infinite Erie. Again, I love how often you're coming now.
I'm loving it too.
Because there's just so much to talk about.
So much.
And now it's like you guys have pulled the trigger on, hey, we have done the research, and now we're coming up with a plan. Give us a little bit of backstory here.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So, we recognize at Infinite Erie, one of our leading roles in the work that we do is to really bring together the practitioners and the leaders of this community and identify what are the greatest challenges that we're facing, what's preventing us from growing and thriving perhaps as a community. From there, once we understand what some of the best practices are throughout the nation, throughout the world, let's see how we can right-size those for Erie, and let's overcome those challenges. Let's do it together. Let's ensure that there's investment to make sure that happens. And I will say housing, as you know and as you've talked about, it is critical to economic development. It is a foundational driver of economic growth. So not only is having access to quality, affordable, safe roof over your head, a social issue, a humanitarian issue, but it is economic development. So we recognize that early on and understand. We knew just from a very high level that we have a challenge in terms of housing infrastructure, especially as it relates to that affordability of housing infrastructure. So we wanted to dive deeper into that in order to understand further what the needs are, what the gaps are, and what role could Infinite Erie play in helping to get some momentum behind some of this work to overcome that.
All right, I think it's really important that the listeners understand that this is more than getting homeless people off the streets of Erie.
Absolutely.
This is a comprehensive plan at multiple layers. Can you, again, broad strokes here. Let's introduce this.
So really the original playbook, we rolled that out in July of 2022. We talk about Bruce Katz and the work that he and Florian did and rolled out that playbook. It called for a comprehensive plan to eliminate homelessness, right? Conversation started was around homelessness, but recognizing that overcoming that challenge is extremely comprehensive in nature and will require a number of different, interventions and initiatives. So that did start in that space, was really around the Housing First Erie initiative in terms of making sure that chronically homeless individuals have a permanent place to live. So it did start there. But upon those conversations and as that project was moving along, we recognized that there's greater need in different areas of what we have identified as the housing continuum. So what we call the housing continuum, you start out, you've got emergency shelter, transitional housing, really for those overnight needs, for epidemic, I guess, type homelessness, or continuous homelessness, or various needs that occur.
And just for a second, so listeners, when we talk to Jenny Haggerty,
yes,
this is the kind of thing that we're talking about when we talk to Bill and Boo Haggerty and Daria Devlin before she became mayor.
That's right. Yes,
this was that was that lane, right?
So yes, part of it. So the transitional shelter, the transitional housing piece, really very much what Mercy Center for Women and Jenny Haggerty has been doing phenomenal work in. Mm-hmm. Now, when we go to the next layer of supportive housing, that's where that Housing First Erie initiative comes in, and that's where the schoolhouse apartments that Build CDC is focused on. So that initiative, that ensures that housing comes first. It's permanent housing without leases attached or things of that nature. It is a permanent space for someone to live as long as they need and want to, with the intense wraparound services that are required. So again, you've got that overnight shelter, transitional housing. You have supportive housing that comes along with the wraparound services to help address some of the challenges that these individuals or families are facing. And then you have affordable housing, workforce housing, and market rate housing. So again, as we were sifting through the supportive housing piece around chronic homeless, we identified that we've got to focus our efforts even broader than just this in order to really make a mark or to make a dent in the need. So what this housing accelerator is doing is focused on those three areas of the continuum in the middle: supportive housing, affordable housing, and workforce housing.
All right. You explained supportive very well. What do you guys consider as affordable housing? Just define terms here.
Yeah, sure. So for a housing unit that perhaps someone is renting, we see affordable as being at a rate that is less than 80% of the average median income of AMI. So less than 80% of AMI. We think in Erie, based on the market, the way that housing sales and housing rentals go, we think to rent a 2-bedroom apartment, you're looking at less than $850. So that maximum threshold for affordable housing is at $850. For a home sale, the numbers line up to be about $125,000 in terms of affordability. For workforce, it goes a bit higher.
I'm sorry,
I
Kim,
know.
That's a heavy lift.
It is. That's why
gosh.
it's such a challenge, and why it's so important to have a strategy and have focus, because the subsidy and investment that's required in order to get this done is necessary. So when we talk about affordability, what we recognized in this housing needs analysis is there are approximately 46% of residents are what we call severely cost burdened. That means that every month they are paying more than 35% of their monthly income on housing. So you think about that in terms of economic development, in terms of business growth, in terms of workforce development. If you have people who are spending all of their resources that they're getting on just having a place to live, they don't have other expendable resources to spend out in the community, to support local businesses, to support the various cultural activities. Perhaps they're not as stable in their job, and they might be jumping from job to job or from community to community. So again, it goes to that economic development piece of all of it. The picture does get a little better when we talk about workforce housing in terms of what that means. So if we say less than 80% AMI, or earning 80% of the average median income for affordable, we're looking at 80 to 120% AMI for workforce housing. So a 2-bedroom, we're talking $950 to $1,250 a month from a rental perspective, and $130 to $190 from a home ownership perspective. But still, I think
you're getting closer to
Erie.
what
right.
There might be something available.
That's
there.
right. And fortunately, whether it's affordable housing or workforce housing, but at these rates, there are significant tax credits and resources that you can leverage to make these units happen, to make them pencil out, to ensure that they can get
tax credits for a developer, are you saying?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
So yes, low income housing tax credits, LIHTC, we'll call it LIHTC all the time. You'll hear that. LIHTC tax credits, low income housing tax credits are a great resource to being able to make these projects work, to pencil out for developers. But for those tax credits, this development isn't happening. Same with like workforce. I mean, you can either look at, depending on the rental rates, you can look at LIHTC or you can look at new markets tax credits, which is another opportunity. So the resources are out there. We just have to have a very focused strategy in order to utilize those and then to fill the need.
I'm going to go a rabbit trail on you just a second here. If there are tax credits available and incentives available for developers, what's available for that family to say, hey, I'm aspiring to this $150,000 home, but my income, because my income, let's say my household income is right at the median, right at 100% of the average median. What can I buy at $54,000? Household income,
right?
What can I buy?
Yeah, so there's not much out there, right? I mean, in terms of stock. So what you have to do is you have to pair that. You have to pair, the developers receiving these subsidies in order to make this happen, but they're doing it recognizing that the rental income they're going to be receiving is going to be at a lower, more affordable level.
But if I want
to
go buy a single family home, let's say in a neighborhood that's on the rebound, let's say lower Bayfront, East Side Bayfront. And I found something that with some help, maybe I can get in at 120. I'm going to need to put $50,000 into it. Is there help that way? Have you heard of? Okay.
Yeah. So I would say, So, and I'm not going to know the specifics of each individual program, but that's why it's important to pair with local entities like in Erie's Black Wall Street or some of the others that have some of these home ownership programs where if you're participating in these, then there is, at the end of it, once you've completed some of the financial literacy and other pieces of it, then perhaps they can provide you with $10,000 for a down payment toward home ownership. So it's pairing the subsidies and making sure that the cost that you're going to have to pay to live here is matched up with not only your income, but some of the other resources that you can tap into at the state level. I mean, there are different, first-time home buyer opportunities at various levels. So it's about ensuring that from a programmatic standpoint that those opportunities are there, but also ensuring that the housing stock at that level of affordability is there to match that as well.
Kim, we had to take the break. We were talking about first supportive housing, which is, and then there's affordable housing, then there's workforce housing, right?
Yep.
So you said workforce is between 80 to 120% of the average median income here in Erie. That means about a $950 to a $1,250 rent.
2-bedroom, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you can qualify for the loan, be between 130 and 190.
That's right.
Now, again, you have to find the house to buy.
That's the challenge. So what we found in recognizing that these were the wages, these were the numbers, was that we were about 6,000 units short in the City of Erie specifically, 3,000 units short in deeply affordable units. So we're talking for individuals who are making less than $20,000 a year. Yeah. So 3,000 units short, deeply affordable units. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we're about 3,000 units short in what we've identified as workforce units. So for those who are literally that, in the workforce, but probably make more than $50,000 a year, we're about 3,000 units short there. So it's hard to find, regardless of what area of income you're talking, 80 to 120 or below 80 even.
So did you guys define what is that median income? Do we have a number from Bureau of Labor Statistics?
We do, off the top of my head.
Okay. I want to say it's 54,000. It's for the household.
I think that's about right.
Is that about right?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
And so, again, it's like, can you imagine, trying to pencil this out as a homeowner or as just someone who wants to rent at $54,000? That's what and for some folks to make the $54,000, it's two incomes,
that's right,
if not three.
Yeah, and they're spending in most cases, more than 35% of that income on that home.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I just wanted to make a note, if we were talking about housing, I mean, let's face it, income has not increased over the last 7 years, yet housing has nearly doubled. And so if we were having this conversation, we went back in the Wayback Machine to 2018, right?
Yes.
When you were at DCED.
That's right.
We would be talking about $90,000 houses or maybe 120. Now those houses are, like you say, 130 to 190.
Yeah, that's exactly
I
right.
mean, they've basically gone up 50%, if not more.
Yeah, so it requires us to get really creative as a community to identify opportunities to make those projects work, because they have to happen.
Yeah.
We have a major gap here, so that it has to happen.
Okay, so let's start talking about the solution side here. I've got about 5 minutes here.
Okay.
That's where you're focused on supportive, affordable, and workforce.
That's right. Yes. So we know, I mean, there has been a tremendous amount of effort with our community development organizations and others over the years to really get some of these units into play, to get new housing online, to get housing rehab to where it's quality, safe, and at an affordable level.
And who's in that space?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, quite a few. So this is when we're talking about the Sisters of St. Joseph Neighborhood Network, our West Bayfront East Side Task Force, the city's redevelopment authority, the county's redevelopment authority, the housing authority of the City of Erie.
Is the land bank involved with some of this too?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
Where
strong partnership.
they're taking down the really bad blighted stuff and coming up with,
that's right,
maybe a space where you can build on.
That's exactly right, and that's what we hope to do alongside the city and the county land bank. So they're absolutely a partner in all of this. So that work has been happening, but it's happening in an incremental fashion. It requires significant capacity on these organizations, a lot of time on these organizations that are small in terms of capacity. It requires numerous funding resources in order to get the job done. And at the end of the day, you're lucky if it's a house or two or a couple units here and there. If we're talking 6,000 units overall, we'll never get there at this rate. So we recognize that it was important to have a very focused strategy in very specific parts of the City of Erie is what we're talking about here, is of the city. So
you've identified actual neighborhoods where you want to pour your resources
We
into.
have been. We've been working alongside. We've developed a housing accelerator work group, which consists of all those organizations and others that I just mentioned. So really leaning on them and their expertise and their work in their respective neighborhoods to have an understanding of what some of these priority opportunities are. So we've identified neighborhood clusters, or we've identified cluster areas within these neighborhoods. So for example, 5th to 6th Parade to Wallace, working alongside Best. We've identified some opportunities alongside the Redevelopment Authority and the City Land Bank and the Sisters of St. Joseph and what we're calling the Central City or Center City, so 21st, 22nd German area. Okay. Working alongside our West Bayfront and GCAC for some opportunities where they currently have some site control between West 8th and 10th Street. And just some lower hanging fruit, right, where there's already site control, so there doesn't have to be acquisition there. These organizations
when you say site control, that means
the organizations already own the properties.
They own the properties.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, they own the properties. So Infinite Erie's role has been to work with these organizations, identify those opportunities, and then to lend ourselves as additional capacity, project management support, education and awareness around co-development opportunities. What can we do to help build this organization's capacity so that instead of 1 or 2 units every couple of years, let's look at 30 to 50 units over the next few years.
What's been the limiting factor for some of these groups? They just were missing capital, or
it's capacity and capital.
Okay.
Capacity and capital. I mean, it's a full-time job to try and figure out and fundraise to get this work done. So having the wherewithal, the time, the people, the skills to do all of that, and then to be able on the back end of it, once you've actually created the project and been through those pre-development opportunities or exercises, it's to actually develop a capital stack to get you to your 10, 15, $18 million project. And that's not easy. And then when you talk about the tax credits that we talked about that are oftentimes necessary to make these projects go, that's a whole additional set of expertise and capacity that is very limited in our community, quite frankly. I mean, we have organizations like HANDS that is very experienced in LIHTC, and Mr. Donnie Crenshaw, he's experienced in LIHTC tax credits, and they've done those projects. But, you talk to a HANDS, they can only do that, once every 5 or so years because, again, their own internal capacity. It all comes back to capacity and capital, honestly.
It's unreal. I got like a minute and a half here.
Okay.
I mean, do you sense at like the state and federal level, we've heard some things from Josh Shapiro, the governor, we've heard some things from the senators, Fetterman, and in fact, the Fetterman and McCormick have a release today about some bill that...
Road to housing, I believe.
Yeah, something like that. Do you think that there's going to be some streams coming from those places?
We're certainly hoping so. I mean, that's one of the pieces of this strategy is to align local efforts to be able to leverage local resources to the state and federal level. So we are hopeful that through the Housing Action Plan that Governor Shapiro just recently released and his budget proposal to put $1 billion into housing and critical infrastructure, hopefully some of that at least comes to fruition so that we can start leveraging those opportunities, and the same at the federal level. We certainly recognize an opportunity when we have our federal delegation really working to address the same issues that we're facing and talking about here locally. So that's the hope.
But a local profitable concern could buy some tax credits that would also be additive to this stack, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, that's the whole point.
That's exactly right, yeah.
What new markets you mentioned?
Yeah, there's
and
new
so
markets,
on.
yep.
Get paid to drive. Start a new career behind the wheel at the EMTA. If you are looking for a high-paying and rewarding career with full benefits and paid training, stop by or apply online today with the EMTA. Plus, EMTA riders can now enjoy free Wi-Fi on new, clean, and environmentally friendly buses to travel all over Erie County. Visit ridethee.com for more information.
Get on board EMTA. Get on board EMTA. Get on board.
At Quickfill, what matters most is that our customers, our communities, and our heroes are taken care of. We start by providing American-made gasoline, which means you can buy local, keeping America and your communities strong. We also support vital charities every year and hold Operation Give Thanks each November to help provide a better future for our veterans and their families. We're proud to support the communities we live and work in, and we're doing our best every day to make our towns a better place. Quickfill, driving America.
Looking for amazing finds and incredible deals? Visit Erie City Mission Thrift today. From stylish clothes and shoes to quality furniture and home goods, you'll discover something new each time while changing lives right here in Erie. It's shopping that feels good and does good. Come see us in Erie and Girard. Erie City Mission Thrift. Thrift with a purpose.
Kim Thomas, our guest from Infinite Erie. We're talking about this big plan. It is the Erie Housing Accelerator Plan, including a housing needs analysis and this pathway to develop 250 new units of affordable workforce and supportive housing. 5 years you're giving yourself.
We are.
Is that enough time?
I hope so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it absolutely is. So
what are we focusing on? We're focusing on multifamily, single family. What does the stock look like? And is it all new, are you thinking?
Yeah, so we do think with these 250 units, the majority of it will likely be new. There are some preservation opportunities with units that are already identified as affordable, again, from a tax credit standpoint, that could be going offline in the coming years, okay, that if we ensure that those remain at the affordable level, then we could be preserving some of that level of affordability. But we think most of it's going to be new. Believe it or not, what this analysis showed us is that there is a great need for one-bedroom units.
Okay.
So which we found to be very interesting. So that's where the greatest need was. That's not to say that we're really looking toward, a lot of one bedrooms, because I think what most people want, regardless of, whether they're, an individual or a family, is probably at least 2 bedrooms. But what we found is the need for 1. So most of these will likely be multifamily units, even if we're talking about duplexes in some, areas potentially, a 12-unit, some of that missing middle is what we're calling it, some of that infill. And it really, all of this is sort of the next step beyond Erie Refocused, what it gave us 10 years ago, and said, listen, you need to go right-size things. You need to eliminate the blight. The housing stock quality is becoming deplorable in many areas, and identifying those conditions specifically. So a lot of that work has happened. Now the infill and the development needs to happen on the heels of that.
Have you talked to policymakers about code, or not code so much, but zoning? Yes,
absolutely. And we talk with Mayor Devlin about that pretty regularly as well. So there's definitely a recognition, and this is something that the Governor Shapiro's Housing Action Plan calls for, is, a right sizing of some of the zoning laws and things of that nature, because a lot of what was built or enacted, from so many years ago is not the right fit for what residents need today, right? So these accessory
R1
dwelling
thing,
units, the ADUs, you can't build cottages or ADUs on many of these parcels in the city or otherwise, or the density level. A lot of the residential density that we're seeing, if we're talking about a 30 to 50 multifamily unit property, the residential density zoning doesn't allow for that. So you'd have to go get variations to those ordinances. So those are the types of conversations and the partnerships that, working with Mayor Devlin and her team at the city, to really help understand, if this is the plan that she and her team are supportive of as well, how can the city really make its policies more efficient and enabling this work to move forward. So that's a big undertaking that they're having, in discussions within City Hall that they're having as well. So you do have to shift the zoning for sure.
Kind of shuddering at some of the NIMBY conversations and
no doubt
and protests that'll happen at City Council. But there's got to be a way to be able to build some critical mass, especially where there's been so much blight. Would you rather have a nice multifamily next to you, or a falling down single family?
That's right. Just think about the value of the place that you're living, and what's next to you is going to help drive that value or not.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
Yeah.
The you mentioned that the focus of this housing accelerator plan is mostly on the city. Do we have an analysis, though, of, like, as you go into the suburbs and things, is there any slack in the housing availability? Is there any room in Mill Creek, or in Lawrence Park or Wesleyville, and of course we do have some. Like, I feel like the Avalon Hotel has some capacity and so on. Talk about what's out there yet.
Yeah, so I think, when we look countywide, I think we're going to find out here pretty soon, similar to the city, what the needs are, what the gaps are throughout some of the municipalities in the county. Fortunately, our partners at the County of Erie and the County Executives Administration, they're getting ready to embark on a comprehensive housing strategy that will go beyond the city. So we're looking forward to working with them on that.
So that is going to happen.
That is happening, yes. That is happening,
because there was an announcement right over the transition,
correct,
and
yes.
We didn't know if it was going to go.
Yep, that's happening. So they'll be doing that because, communities like Corey and Edinburgh and some of the more rural areas too. There has got to be significant need in terms of affordability and stock, just because of the aging infrastructure and population decline that we've all experienced.
And you would want to rebuild where there already is water and sewer and internet and
that's exactly right.
electric.
Where the infrastructure already exists. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
From a market rate standpoint, we're very fortunate to see the partners just across the street and the work that the EDDC is doing. And, we're very hopeful that continues to happen because we see the demand is there, right? So it's important that all areas of this housing continuum, that there is work happening in all of them. We are just specifically focused on supportive, affordable, and workforce. But yes, you have some new workforce or affordable workforce units at the former Avalon that's starting to build up some opportunity there. Certainly with the market rate housing, but it's about doing the infill, that missing middle housing within these core neighborhoods that will allow employers to be able to attract folks that whether it's an Erie Insurance or one of the healthcare institutions or the universities, the college students being able to graduate and grab a house or grab an apartment right here in the city and walk to work. That's what people want. They want to be in the thick of it, but being able to afford to do so, or just being able to identify that opportunity, because in many cases it just doesn't exist.
Some of the pushback I get whenever I talk about housing, right, is the concept that a lot of our regulations are very onerous and is brought up. You hear this quote of, well, it's going to cost $250 a foot to build, or $300 a foot to build. That's outrageous.
Sure, it is. Yes,
but that's what they're dealing with between labor and some of the regulations. Again, from Infinite Erie standpoint, you can't be telling people how to change the code,
right?
But how do we build more a more helpful spirit, I guess, with the regulators?
Well, I think it comes back to working with folks like our government partners to right size or to make sure that their permitting processes and their codes and their zoning ordinances, et cetera, are enabling the work to happen, first and foremost. It comes down to working with public partners and private partners from a financial standpoint and making them understand that, ensuring that we have 250 units of affordable, supportive, and workforce housing, that 50 chronically homeless individuals will be off the streets with a permanent roof over their heads and receiving the services that they need. That's, again, an economic development boost for businesses in the community. Invest in this and you will get this. So it's really a lot about education. You definitely need to ensure that it's enabling legislation or ordinances, et cetera, to allow you to actually do the work that needs to happen. But you've also got to find the financial resources, which, because the cost of building, et cetera, is so high right now, it requires public and private input.
All right. So as you have your plan out there, are there specific projects that you're starting to point to or hoping for? You mentioned some geography that is focused. Talk about some of that.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, we're looking at the City of Erie. Again, we kind of take this on the heels of Erie Refocused a decade later, where there was a great focus, and understandably, within the downtown, the core neighborhoods, the Bayfront, et cetera. So that's kind of where we're coming from. We recognize if there's a need for 6,000 units, you have to focus and start somewhere. We can't continue from a scattered approach. We have to be able to show that this will work in a concentrated area. So again, working with those neighborhood partners, identifying some of those clustered opportunities. And Infinite Erie's role is really to bring this focus and to bring this strategy, but to provide that additional capacity to these organizations, as well as help them overcome some of the early stage hurdles that these small nonprofit organizations would face from a financial standpoint, a pre-development standpoint. So a great example is the work that we're doing alongside the Bayfront Eastside Task Force. So providing, again, that project management support, working alongside Marcia, the executive director, Father Simon, board director, and the rest of the board, to help them understand some co-development opportunities where they can retain ownership of the properties, but have someone, a developer that's experienced in the space, come in and work alongside them to get these projects done. So we've been able to utilize Infinite Erie's resources to bring in some assistance around architectural firm. So working alongside an architectural firm to do what they call yield studies, have an understanding of if you have, these parcels, this much acreage, square footage, what can actually go on these parcels. So to have an understanding of that, and then to provide some early stage conceptual renderings to get the board really excited for understanding the opportunities, and to allow the organization to then go to do some really in-depth community outreach with the residents and the neighbors and the like to ensure that this is a path that they want to go down. But being able to provide that support and come alongside an organization like BEST that, again, does great work.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of opportunity there. And to be able to right size that, bring more focus to it, bring some additional resources to it, that's where the acceleration comes into play. So again, instead of a couple of units being rehabbed, instead of one single family home being built, now we're talking 40 plus units in a short period of time.
In a particular neighborhood.
Sure.
That's a game changer
no
in
doubt.
a place like
No doubt.
BEST.
No doubt.
My gosh. I feel like all the work that's been done the last 10, 15 years, like you say, from the SSJ, Neighborhood Network, or BEST, or our West Bayfront, is kind of leading to this moment.
100%.
It
absolutely has. We would not be here had it not been for that tremendous work that these organizations have been doing over the years. They've really started this and have been doing, yeoman's work in ensuring that they are taking care of their residents and their communities and providing access to those opportunities, whether it be, down payment assistance or, rent to own or, equity building opportunities, financial literacy. They're providing all those programmatic opportunities for their residents, and then also rehabbing and building units to then allow those residents to live in them. So, but for that work happening, we wouldn't be here today to where we're saying if we can provide some additional capacity, additional funding and focus, now we can accelerate all that they're doing.
I remember talking when Jeremy was at BEST. One of the major concerns there was private equity and outside landlords and so on scooping in and buying, a house. Maybe the owner passed away.
Sure.
It goes up. Or it shows up on the sheriff's sale or something like that. What's that infrastructure? That's not you, but it could be these organizations that could block stuff.
Well, that's
like
where a
that,
land
right?
bank comes in, right?
Okay.
So Aaron Snippert and his team at the city land bank, certainly Jeremy now in his role at the county land bank, that's where that is a critical tool to ensure that that doesn't happen, right?
Gotcha.
So they have the resources and the capabilities to identify some of those opportunities and make sure that they're banking them for these opportunities that we're now talking about. So if there's an assemblage of land bank property that takes up a couple of blocks in a particular neighborhood, now you're really talking about, okay, let's put together, some designs in a package and put it out for developers to come in and really see what they're working with here. So land bank is a critical tool in all of that.
And in the end, when we're making more supportive, more affordable, more workforce housing available, it just stabilizes.
That's right.
I mean, that's what we're going for here, is to be able to retain some of our college graduates, to retain our young people to stay here, be able to get out from their parents' basement and,
That's exactly right. That's what it is. It's an affordability issue. Again, if there's an opportunity to be able to live comfortably for a reasonable, affordable rate based on your income, now you are able to get out in the community and enjoy that quality of life. You're not just working to pay rent or to pay a mortgage and to sit in your house all the time. That's not what, nobody wants that.
Yeah.
It's a workforce opportunity from an employer standpoint. If we don't have the housing stock here for, potential prospective employees to purchase or to rent when they come work for your company, then they may go somewhere else where they can find, the housing that they want to be in and the amenities surrounding them if they want a downtown and, want that vibe, which a lot of them do these days. So it all plays into a role around economic development and quality of life and the like. So it all plays into one another, that without this community development and ensuring that the housing stock is there, you're not going to have the economic growth that you hope to see as a community.
If you are, and let's just face it, if you're an aging landowner or you own a couple properties and, it's just you're getting tired of maintaining these, should they be talking to their neighborhood folks about options?
Certainly. Yeah, absolutely. I don't see why not. I think between, the land bank as well as these neighborhood organizations, I think that's a best case scenario, right? That it doesn't go into the hands of someone out of town that sees this as, a cash grab for them.
Yeah.
So absolutely, they're always assets to the residents in the neighborhood.
Last question here for Kim Thomas. All right, so this is one of 35 projects or something like that Infinite Erie's involved in. The housing thing is like, well, maybe it's more than one, but still, you've got so many other irons on the fire. Just kind of skim those for a second.
Yeah,
here.
so, yes, that original playbook was 35 transformational investment opportunities, but that was why we felt it was so important with this 2026 playbook to be much more focused, much more prioritized. So we are focusing on 3 main priorities, one of them being creating access to quality, affordable housing. Then we have a priority to ensure that we see development of a world-class waterfront, and finally supporting economic development initiatives. And that sounds very broad, but we are very focused on investment in critical infrastructure, as well as workforce development, talent attraction piece. So really focused on those 3 areas. Still providing support to organizations and project leads that are putting forth, that have projects at various stages in the pipeline that we've been working with for years. Mm-hmm. But we are being very hyper focused in terms of time and resources around those 3 specific priorities. So you'll see some planning that's going to be happening along the waterfront.
Who's the leads on that particular part?
So on developing a world-class waterfront, again, this is came out of the original playbook, was to develop a world-class waterfront task force. So we've been working closely with Erie Events, Scott Enterprises, and the Port Authority. They are the 3 major property holders along the Bayfront, and working very closely with Mayor Devlin on this as well. So there will be some things coming up there around some master planning on the waterfront that we're really excited about. Think about just the opportunities, what a world-class waterfront could be here in Erie, especially with resources like the CRIZ and things like that. So, and then supporting economic development, that critical infrastructure. So we're talking the work that's happening at Ironworks Square, the work out at McCain Business Park, recognizing that without investments in that critical infrastructure, we're never going to see
this is the boring expansion. Stuff, right?
It is, but it's not. It's so cool.
But you're talking about water and sewer and electric.
Yeah, but what it can lead to is tremendous. And then workforce too, right? Without that infrastructure and the site preparation, the site readiness for businesses to be able to develop on, without the talent they need in order to be productive as for-profit entities, we're never going to see any growth or attraction or expansion. So that's a very big one as well.
So on workforce, I know that EC3 is a big part of this community college. Make sure I understand again, because you know everything. But are they really? They're trying to put a campus at Burton School with Gary Horton. Is that am I right on that?
So I think they're exploring, right?
Okay,
so
gotcha.
The Burton School Revitalization Project is a playbook project for Infinite Erie. So we've been supportive of Gary and those efforts for quite some time. So they're exploring it. Chris Gray,
because they need
an
East
Side campus. That's exactly
they lost
right. Yeah.
St. Ben's.
So it could be a tremendous opportunity, but absolutely they're exploring.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
Again, I'm amazed at the whole workforce thing. And congratulations to Gannon and AHN and First Ascent. That was a big announcement yesterday.
Phenomenal. That's what we need more of. That's exactly it.
That was amazing to be able to give folks that capacity to really scale up their skills to be deployed into the marketplace. Yeah. Your hands are full, but thank you for explaining it.
Absolutely.
Again, we're trying to keep our listeners and keep ourselves so in tune with where the forces are going, and
you guys, you do a phenomenal job, and all of this is at our website too. So the housing plan, the playbook, infiniteerie.com. But thank you guys for providing the space to be able to talk about it.
Beautiful. Kim Thomas, Executive Director, Infinite Erie. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
You've been listening to The Joel Natale Show, Erie, Pennsylvania's daily podcast from TalkErie.com. Subscribe to our show on your favorite podcatcher and get involved by emailing joel@talkerie.com.